Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. We have Arrianna here. Arrianna, you've done what, one episode with us?
Yes.
Was it one? Okay, so you're here on your second episode. What do you think, and how are you feeling about it?
Well, I think it was one of those things that as you kind of get started, just go with the flow and it comes out, and hopefully this is a good one.
I think this is great. Actually, when we were pitching topics out of things that we think would be helpful for families, I really like this. The kids are listening. There was a movie, I think it's called Couples Retreat or something, and there's a scene, I think Vince Vaughn plays one of the dads and the mom, and they're talking about going on this retreat, and they're talking in the kitchen, and in the scene, the kids are sitting on the staircase, and they're like listening to their parents, and they go, "We want you to go because we don't want you to get divorced," or something like that, and I kind of laugh, and of course it's a movie, but it does represent that the kids really do pay attention to us. And so I think when you're talking about this particular topic, the kids are listening. I really think it's great for the listeners to know, like, your kids are hearing much more than you're just saying, right? But they do listen to what you say also. And they interpret what you say also. And they may interpret it wrong also. So there's so many factors that go into this. So I'm really glad you want to do this topic. I think it's wonderful. And I think the first part you wanted to talk about was kids are hearing what we don't say out loud. Is that accurate? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot recently in my room. Just kids, we hear parents say like, "Oh, they're so grown up," or "I couldn't believe that, this 7-year-old, they're like a mini adult," right? And part of it is a sense of emotional maturity, but part of it is a sense that, children are like sponges. They're absorbing everything they see. They're absorbing everything they hear. They're really picking up on the emotion, the body cues, the tension, the tone of how you speak, even if you're not talking to them about co-parent or adult things. They're picking up on everything about that and how you're showing up to them.
And when you say they're picking up on everything, are you saying like the nonverbals, the tone, the expressions, the way you sit, where you sit in proximity to their other parent? Are they picking up on all that?
Absolutely. If the child sees that you can't even be in the same room as dad or mom, how do you think that resonates to the children, right? We love our children. We're trying to protect them. It really is when they see things like that, when they see the negative tone or, the muttering under the breath after getting off the phone with co-parent, that actually impacts their emotional safety.
Wow. Tell us more about what you mean by impacting their emotional safety.
So they're really just trying to figure out, how do I operate in this world between these houses, between all of these things? And if they're picking up on that negativity towards dad, towards mom, towards whomever, they start to internalize those things. Should I also be worried about being at dad's house?
Oh, yeah.
Should I also be worried at being at mom's house? I wonder why, this adult that I trust is acting so negative towards my other parent. Like, what does that mean?
How should I be responding to this also? So the kids having to navigate how they're to respond. What are kids considering when they're thinking about how to respond to situations like that? What's kind of going through them?
Yeah, I think it's really just observing and seeing, okay, this is mom, this is dad, this is the adult. How are they doing? Okay, should I be doing the same thing? Should I be copying? Should I be mirroring? Should I be engaging with the parent the same way? Because this is the adult, right? This is the adult that I trust and is taking care of me and all of those things. So how should I be engaging or interacting like them?
Well, that's an interesting point because it makes me wonder, like, are kids focusing more on how are my parents doing with this before they think about how they're doing with it?
I think we talk about it all the time. We've got the 3 types of children roles that the children play in divorce. And, one of the ones we see commonly is that gatekeeper. So these are the kids trying to keep the peace. Let me not share this information with mom because I know it's going to make her upset, or let me not tell dad because I know that he feels some type of way about mom. And so they really are, yes, we're supposed to protect them as parents, but they also kind of want to protect us and make sure that we're doing okay.
So do you think kids is it primarily common for kids to want to be protected or want to protect?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah. Do they have one that you think leads into another, one more than another, especially in divorce?
I don't. I think kids are trying to make sense of the chaos and the hurt and everything that's happening in the family system.
Yep.
And so, they pick up on that. And I think that's sometimes does turn into, the protecting.
And I think the way that I've experienced it is in a strong marriage with children, the kids seem to feel protected. And so they get to be themselves. They get to feel like they can express themselves and everything else. But when a divorce happens, it's almost like you do see that role shift where the kid is like now becoming the protector or the guardian of, right? So like if both my parents are getting divorced and one of my parents is emotionally distraught by it and the other one's okay, the kid might pick up on that and then parentify, right? And want to protect that parent because they see that brokenness in them. And then the parent is not necessarily wanting the kid to parent them, but likes the fact that they feel the love of the child toward them because of the pain they're in. And so it's like this, I don't know, it's like if I better myself, then my kid may not want to take care of me anymore. Yeah. And it's, gosh, it almost sounds selfish, but in a way it kind of is. And you're letting your kid be the guardian of your emotion. And these poor children get caught like that in the middle a lot, it seems. So yeah, what other things it says kids hear what we don't say out loud. Are there other things that you wanted to mention on that particular topic?
Yeah, I just think, it's so hard, and divorce really magnifies that conflict and that stress and all of those things. And so, we're talking about how parents can do, and I have a tip for, how parents can help in this situation. But I also, want parents to kind of have a sense of grace for themselves, right? They don't have to be perfect. They just have to protect their children. And so, by keeping adult conversations in adult spaces, maybe that is waiting till the kiddos fall asleep. Maybe that is, stepping outside, saving it for a therapy appointment, whatever that looks like, but really trying their best to create that boundary and not let those adult things, those emotions, any of that stuff seep into the child's life.
Yeah, we used to have this thing, Arrianna, where if we're disagreeing in front of the kids, then the kids need to see us resolve it there too. If we're disagreeing not in front of the kids, then we can resolve it however we choose. We can shelve it, we can talk about it, we can fix it, we can whatever we want. But kids need to see that even in a disagreement, there is a resolution. That resolution is possible. I think children benefit so much from this. You think I've never been in a disagreement with my wife in front of my kids? Come on now. Yeah, but we try to solve it right there. Like we at least want some level of a resolution there so the kids see that something came together. Make sense? But what about, like, we never argue in front of our kids? I don't know if that's healthy either. Because like when a kid grows up and thinks, y'all never disagree. So anytime I have a disagreement with someone, we're obviously not compatible. That's not always true too either, right?
Yeah,
so it's that balance.
And I think that brings me to another point that I had is that really, as parents, you're modeling that emotional regulation. You're modeling having respect for others, even when it's hard, even when you might hate their stinking guts for everything that they've done to you. It's modeling that regulation and respect so that your kiddo can pick up on that, use that, and have those life skills.
What are some ways that parents can model that regulation and respect for their children, from their children's eyes?
I think it's leaving the emotions out of it when engaging with the co-parent. There may be some history there. There may be a lot of hurt. There may be anger. There may be guilt. But really, putting that aside and thinking about the child and what you want your child to see in parents, and even, putting yourself in their shoes, and how do you want them to understand you as a parent and their childhood. And so really, if it is communicating with that co-parent, doing so cordially, doing so with respect, maybe it is just keeping it to logistics of, pickup and holiday and all of those things. If that's more helpful for you, that's more helpful to keep out that emotion and that pain. Like, you can't control what your co-parent does, but you can control how you respond to it.
Oh, I've heard that before.
and it's so true, right? The kiddo might not be on the line with you, and they might not see how parent is going off on you and all of those things, but you can sit there calmly. You can respond appropriately, and that's what kiddo sees.
Yeah, I teach that in that course, Countering Alienation, literally using, I call it 5 sense language. Some people call it tactical empathy, but I think Chris Voss calls it tactical empathy. I call it 5 sense language, which is, it seems like this is really important to you. You want to get this resolved. And usually the person applies, says yes. You say, okay, I will best be able to help that happen if we can have this conversation at this time of day or at this moment in meeting. They may not want to do that. And you just say, well, if you'd like a resolution, I think that I can best serve you there. So would you be against me having that conversation with you at this time? And so it's teaching the communication skill that goes around collaborating with the ex, so that, like you said, you still have set a boundary in there. You still have controlled the response so that the child says, they're not ignoring my parent, but they're placing it where it needs to go so they can get a resolution out of it. So I agree. What a beautiful thing to model for your children. Because here's what's really amazing. I know, because I have 3 kids, and I know that with my children, how I manage stress, how I respond to problem, they are literally, I am modeling and shaping. Like you just said, you're modeling regulation and respect. You're modeling and shaping how they resolve issue. So if I'm not really good at collaborating with this co-parent, well, your kid is going to pick up on that. Make sense? And so you're modeling for them how to relate to someone else too. So I think that the best thing, this is just my tidbit, I think the best thing a parent can do is really take a self-evaluation of going, I'm still really hurt by this divorce, or I'm still really holding on to pain. I really don't have trust. I have some trust issues in this, or whatever it may be. And when they do that, is going, I need to seek out someone who can guide me to get to a place where I can become a better responder. I can become a better resignator. And when it comes to my own stuff, I can resonate better with it so I can actually resolve it within myself. The more that I think parents are true to themselves in that situation, the more progress they're going to make. But so many of them want to avoid what they feel, right? So they either project it onto the kid, or what they do is they're so angry or upset or hurt by the other parent or what the other parent's done or has been doing that they want to make them feel their pain.
Yeah.
Because I forgot her name, but her last name's Teal, but she says, people will always set you up to feel what they feel. Now think about that. People always set you up to feel what they feel. So if you ever wonder when someone makes you feel a certain way while they're doing that, it's because in some way you have made them feel that same way, whether you knew it or not.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. I don't know. Just something always a little extra to give to the parents to think about. So you had another point here. You said your relationship with the other parent shapes your kid's inner world. What does that mean? You said that to me before we started the podcast, but what does that mean here?
Yeah. So as kiddos are growing up and experiencing childhood and taking in all of the information from the world and the adults and all of that, they're really seeing how, parents are responding, how they're acting, how, identity, likes, dislikes, and using those things to formulate who they become. And so a lot of times that is kiddo taking in, pieces from one parent, pieces from the other parent, and using that to shape and morph, their own identity. And so a lot of time, I've had children in my office say, man, my dad really hates my mom. My dad is so upset with my mom.
Wow.
And they used to tell me that I was like my mom in this regard or this way. And kids really internalize that. If part of them is one parent or the other, and that parent is criticizing that parent, kids think that you're criticizing them.
Do they really? They take it personal.
I've seen it so many times in my office.
Yeah. So if my one parent, if parent A hates parent B, then that parent must hate me too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, these poor kids.
Yeah.
In both parents, you know what's really funny is parents always tell me the same thing. If I say, "Do you want what's best for your child?" They usually both say, "Yes." If I say, "Do you love your child?" They both say, "Yes." So they love their child. They want what's best for their child. Do you both want to be part of their life?
Of course.
Those are all yeses. I get all yeses, but none of them agree on how to actually accomplish any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? They only look at what the other one's preventing them from doing to accomplish one of those three in some form. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. To get back and make the other feel the pain that they've experienced.
It seems that way, doesn't it? And so then the child's there caught going, what do I do? I had a conversation with Armando on a case once where I said, doesn't it feel like sometimes kids will reject the emotionally safe parent because they feel that love from that parent is unconditional? Because if they ever rejected the other parent, they'd lose them.
Mm-hmm.
So a way that they can maintain both their parents' relationship in their life is to reject the parent who will never not love them and side with the parent who they're afraid that they will get emotional rejection from.
Wow.
Isn't that deep? I wonder if the listeners are going to be like, Michael, what? I got to rewind that, man.
About?
What did he just say? What I'm saying is children will sometimes reject the emotionally safe parent because they believe the love is unconditional from that one. But because the other parent is not in a state to unconditionally love them in that moment or at that time, or maybe doesn't, the child will side with that parent so that they can maintain both parents' relationships in their system.
It's the fear of losing one or having to pick, and it's the dichotomy that we see all the time of children having to decide, well, do I love mom more? Do I love dad more? Do I love and it should never be a question of that. It should never be. It should be, if y'all both love the child, want what's best for them, protect them, put all of the adult stuff aside and just focus on.
Do you have to hate parent A to love parent B? I've asked a kid that before. Yeah, and usually they'll say no. And I said, so who would be concerned about you loving one and loving? Who's concerned about you having love for both of them? Which one of your parents is more concerned about you loving both of them? And that's where they're like stuck. Like, oh no. Because then the part of them is like, well, if I tell you, then that makes it unsafe for that other parent. Yeah. These poor kids. I think one of the best things I ever heard a kid say to me is, it's like a tug of war and I'm the rope.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great analogy. It's like a tug of war and I'm the rope. So they're just being stretched, right? Just pulled to a side. I mean, you pull them hard enough, you'll rip them. And what you're actually ripping is their heart.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad, isn't that? What are some, you mentioned that you had certain what'd you say? I don't know if it's insight but tidbits of just little nuggets that can help them for things like this. You said your relationship with other parents shapes the kids in their world. Do you have a tidbit for that?
Yeah, so I think, that's also just keeping the communication cordial, making sure that, you're not taking your emotions into it. With the emotional regulation, if, you might mess up, right? Tensions are still high. You might still be feeling the
You will.
Yeah, you will. You will. You're practicing. You're learning. This is a new way to behave. This is a new way to interact with a co-parent because, most of us don't know what it's like to be divorced or have to co-parent. These are all new things for us. And so if this is something you're experiencing, it's also modeling, that repair. If I did get upset, if I did show too much emotion, if I did accidentally badmouth other parent, how do you then come back to child and let them know, like, man, I'm so sorry you had to see that. Parents are okay. Parents are dealing with the things. Don't let that worry you. Because every time that you do that, every time you see them, you're robbing them of that innocence, of their childhood, of getting to just grow up and do child things, teen things.
Is that why they made that song, The Return to Innocence? I'm just teasing. It's a bad joke.
I was like, I don't know that I know that song.
It's an old song. The Return to Innocence. I don't even know who sang it anymore. It's an old song. It was a good song. I thought it was good. But no, like when you said that, you're robbing of their innocence. And in that song, I'm wondering now, because I hadn't heard it since I was like young, but this idea of returning to innocence is like you're going back to that innocent place, that pure place. Like it's almost like I wish parents would understand you want to protect the purity of the child. children lose their childhood in divorce because they have to grow up fast. They have to learn things. They have to navigate things that are really adult heavy. Even the adults don't know how to manage it.
Yeah.
So it makes you think your kid can. So when you look at your kid and go, man, my kid's like a little adult, it almost is complimentary coming out of your mouth, but what you're really saying is my kid's losing their childhood. That's really the message. My kid's a little adult. Well, should they be right now?
Yeah. They're 11. Should they be worrying about?
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad they're so mature so fast, but should they be? Is that really on target with where they are chronologically?
Yeah.
Like, no. Okay. So why does the kid feel the need to be that in this situation? Because you might not be regulating yourself enough. The kid has to do it for you. So the kid says, I will take care of you. That is parentifying.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
Arrianna, this is such a good topic. Continue. What were you saying?
Well, no, and I was going to say, and we get those kids into our office as adults and working with adults who have been children of divorce and are now finally, 10, 15, 20 years later into their adulthood, having to put the pieces together and understand, the childhood that they missed out on.
100%. I kind of kick myself for this. I wish I'd do it more. I think I was afraid to because it was information that wasn't like, I never read it in a book. We kind of developed it as we worked with families here. But I've learned that kids play roles in divorce, and there's a pattern. We talked about that earlier in the podcast, and we actually have the podcast on the roles of divorce. But I did a training for counselors. I don't know if I ever told you this. So I did a training for counselors, and that was really the training was the roles kids play in divorce. So there I am teaching all these counselors who do counseling every day, work with families all the time, friends that are broken, whatever, that, have had some turmoil. And I'm talking about these roles. And I swear to you, at the end of this presentation, my wife was there, she saw it. At the end of the presentation, I had people coming up to me asking where could they find the information. So where's it published? It's not. So that was number one. Number two, I had people come up to me and saying, I saw myself in my own childhood as you described this to me. Yeah. And I realized I lost and it's like they were experiencing a cathartic moment, the therapist, and I had one guy go, man, I'll help you write the book on this deal or something. It was crazy to me, the response I got. And I thought, wow, we've all lived it and we don't even realize. Yeah. Some of us have grown up not realizing, like you said, and it's really cool when an adult does come back and see us and say, hey, I really had to lose my childhood. I had to grow. And I'm like, that in itself is really cool that you figured that out. Yeah. What is it that you want to go back to that you feel like you wish you could have preserved? And are you trying to live it out now? Because have you not seen adults turn into they get freedom from this, so they turn into little kids themselves? They're like, why is my kid such a party animal? Well, they want their childhood back. They want to go be a kid. They want to have their friends and play. And I think we're all big kids at heart deep down, and we all deserve. I heard a statement, Arrianna. It said, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice." Yeah. And I didn't come up with that. That's pretty cool. No, isn't it? It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. So I wish I came up with that too. I don't even know who it was. I heard someone say it, and I was like, ooh, that's really good. Because we all want to feel important. People come into our therapy sessions. Parents come in, and they want to put their foot down and say, this is why I matter. I need to be validated, and you need to see my side of this deal. And it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And so, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just thinking of all of the arguments, all of the conflicts, all of the turmoil that could be solved if everyone was just nice and respectful.
Even in the pain that I feel, I can still choose to be kind because kindness is a choice. I love when one kid got mad at me. Well, I guess at least their face said they were mad at me. Well, they said something like, I'm not ready. And I said, well, ready's not a feeling. Ready's a choice.
How do you choose to be ready? What do you need?
Exactly. See, you, the therapist? Gosh, you're so good at that. Yeah. What would it take for you to be ready? And a lot of times, what I've learned, kids will say is, I don't know. And you know what our friend of the pod, Dr. Robinson, used to say is, how can you find out?
How would you know? What would that be like? What would that feel like?
Yeah. If you just imagine what ready was in your mind, what would that look like? Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. Gosh, we're such therapists. We do it too much. That's that SFT building out. So anyway, I love it. Is there other takeaways that you want to leave the listeners with before we finish? I know this went kind of quick today. I wish we could have taken longer.
Yeah, it did. So just 3 key tidbits
as
you're thinking about, your children and protecting their innocence and creating that safe space for them. Number one, kids hear everything. Protect that peace. Allow them to have that peace, to be a child, to get to grow up and have fun and find joy in the little things. I would say respect your co-parent relationship.
Is this number 2?
Yes, number 2. Respect your co-parent relationship for your child's emotional well-being. So again, that is putting all of your feelings and your hurt aside to make sure that you are engaging with respect and protecting your child's inner world. And my last one is model the behavior you want them to learn, because they are picking up on everything. They hear everything. They see everything, even if you think they're upstairs or behind the door or whatever.
Be what you want them to become. Love it.
Exactly. Children don't need perfect parents. They just need safe ones.
Oh, hold on. Was that number 4?
No, that's just my takeaway
Say
to
that again?
everything. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You just have to create a safe environment for
Yeah, kids don't need perfect parents.
Mhm.
They need safe ones. Safe by what? What terms? Like, define that. Safe.
Emotionally, all of the things we talked about, just how you communicate, how you show up in the world, how you engage with others, creating that sense of safety, that peace, that, environment where there isn't constant turmoil and everything going on that could jeopardize that for your child. Allowing them to stay and maintain their innocence while you handle the adult stuff.
I wrote that down. Kids don't need perfect parents. They need safe ones. Oh, Arrianna, that was good. Girl, that was good. There you have it, folks. That's Arrianna. Look at that. We brought her in a ringer. Can you tell? So glad you're here, Arrianna. Thank you for that. And I want to thank you, listeners, for listening in. And those of you that have subscribed to our podcast, and those of you that have left feedback or have given us a rating, I want to thank you for that, because that gets us out to other people. That puts us in front of other people that may never ever meet us, but have the information to help navigate their own situations. And so it means a lot when you guys engage in that with us and provide that for us so that we can get this out to more people. So thank you for doing that. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us, to hear us. And we want to encourage you to keep moving forward, and we'll get you next time. Thanks.